Does the will of the many live up to the hype? If you've been looking in the fantasy book community in the last year, you have to know about the will of the many. This has been hyped everywhere, and being by an Australian author, I had to check it out. Now, I haven't read anything else by James before. His Arcanius trilogy is very well loved, and it's often touted as having Wheel of Time vibes. And the Will of the Many, as it says on the cover, is Red Rising meets The Name of the Wind. Now, I haven't read The Name of the Wind, so I can't say if that reference is great. It doesn't have the same storytelling element where we've got our main character being an unreliable narrator telling us their story. This is all happening in the present. And from what I've heard of The Name of the Wind prose, I wouldn't say it's a very prose heavy book. So I'm not sure where The Name of the Wind vibes come in. That might be more to do with the plot. But I can definitely say I can see the Red Rising influence. So, firstly, you might be wondering what The Will of the Many is about. Well, firstly, it's book one of the Hierarchy trilogy. We currently just have this one book out at the moment. And the series title says it all. We have a hierarchy system that has taken over this world. Our main character, Vis, is from a small country based on an island in this world, and it was the last country to hold out against the hierarchy, against the Cantonese. And Vis is just doing his best to survive. He's doing his best to stay undercover and not let it known that he was a prince of Sus, the island where he grew up. And Vis is just doing his best, trying to avoid becoming part of the hierarchy. Now, what is the hierarchy? The hierarchy is both the political and magic system for this world. Every single person has something called will, which they can cede to another person. It heightens someone's abilities, but also gives them magical abilities. And if you cede into someone, they can also cede that into someone else. And the hierarchy is built up of these different levels of seedings. So these seedings are known as the Catanian rankings. You can see here how much will you get from each person and at what place that puts you in the hierarchy. You can't cede your will to someone unless you are 18 years or above. Our Vis is coming up to his 18th birthday, and he needs to find a way out to make sure he doesn't have to start ceding will. And he's grown up and been taught to be completely against that. Now, Vis is a very competent person. He is very smart, he's very skilled at fighting, and he knows a lot of stuff. Someone basically scouts him and adopts him to use for their own purposes. They choose to send him to the academy, which is kind of where the best of the best go to be trained, become higher ups in the hierarchy society. So someone decides to adopt Vis to place him in the academy to do something for them. And Vis is like, yep, I'm going to survive. This is a way I can avoid giving up will for a bit longer. So I'm going to go do it. And in his time at the academy, he gets roped into the conflict that's going on between the religious sect and the military sect. As this hierarchy has taken over the entire world, they're finding they don't need the military. And he's had a military guy adopt him, who's using him for his own purposes with advancing the military, perhaps. And he also gets roped into a rebellion. So that's where we get our Red Rising vibes. We get a school academy, we get an inner conflict between the hierarchy, we get elements of a rebellion outside of the hierarchy trying to bring it down, and we get a big test at the end of the year at the academy where it's kind of like our Battle Royale, Red Rising sort of thing going on. And a lot of things go down whilst that happens. So you might be thinking, that sounds like a really interesting book. And I can tell you, it definitely is. The writing is super well done. There's a mystery and intrigue constantly building all the way throughout the book. And there's very likable characters. But for me, there was one thing that held this book back from being a 5 out of 5. So I rated it a 4 out of 5. I thought there were so many great things done to absolute perfection. But just Vis's underlying motivation and why he does things doesn't make sense to me. His whole motivation, like that he states in this book, is survival, and it's very hard to connect with survival just being someone's whole purpose. Like, you kind of want something greater when you're reading a book. So just having a goal of survival and then going to an academy and doing all the very dangerous things he does in this book for the purpose of survival just doesn't make sense for me, and I really struggled with connecting with the character because of that main flaw. But I feel like James had an idea of what he wanted this series to be, and he kind of just had to push Vis in the direction to get him where he needed to be for the next book, because for the next book, he's in the perfect spot to do something that aligns with who he is and what he wants to achieve. He has a purpose now going into the next book. So I would recommend, if you do want to read this, and I do recommend reading this, it's very good. Just wait till the second book comes out so you can actually see Vis on a mission with a purpose doing something. So, world building, 4.5 out of 5. Writing, 4.5 to 5 out of 5. Characters, they're pretty, like, I want to say 5, but because of this main flaw, it's like a 3, 2.5. Because I liked going from page to page, but as a whole, the book just wasn't gripping because our main character didn't have a drive, a sense of purpose that I couldn't connect with. But there's so much great about this book. So if you've read The Will of the Many, please let me know your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear if you had the same issue as me or if it was just a complete 5 out of 5 for you. This book is an absolute blast. It includes some great twists, great world building, great writing, and I can't wait to get to the next one. Have a great day, guys.